Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Say What podcast. I am so happy to be sitting here chatting with you today. It has been since July since we've recorded, but hey, we're back. And I don't even know if I want to say welcome back. I think I want to say just welcome to the Say What podcast because we're new here. We're brand new. We've got a new cover photo. We're doing video now. We're back to weekly episodes. We have a new release day, Say What Wednesdays, and it's just a blast. It is just a blast. I'm so thankful to be sitting here talking to you. I'm in my little home studio. You know, we're real small business vibes over here, but hey, I love it. We make this work, and I should give a shout out to my husband because he has set this all up and he is wonderful. And thank you, Thomas, for doing all that. If it was your first time listening, my name is Hannah. I'm so excited you're here. I'm so honored that you decided to spend some of your Wednesday with me or whatever day you're listening. And we like to talk about sex, purity culture, painful sex, married things. I will be now talking a little bit about mom things because for so long I was like, once I have a baby, I don't want being a mom to become like my whole personality. But there's just no way to continue on my life without talking about being a mom because it consumes my everyday being. Like, I'm here talking to you, but sometimes I'm like, what's Tate doing while I'm sitting here talking to you? Like, it just is part of my life. So we're gonna talk a little bit of mom stuff, girly things, just fun things. That's what we talk about. And I'm so honored that you are here to hang out with us. I pretty much am an open book. I share a lot of stuff, but we have a lot to catch up on. Speaking of being an open book, a lot has happened since July, so we have to catch up. We're going to talk about how I moved, how I didn't sleep for months, my hot take on sleep training, my postpartum rage, which is so fun to share with you, the deep depths of my soul, it feels like, my dog getting sick, and then my dog literally breaking 3 bones in my body. So much to catch up on to take us to this point. But hey, we're here. Today we're just gonna catch up, talk about some real life crap that's been happening. And then after today's episode, we are gonna get back to purity culture. We're gonna be talking about modesty. We're gonna be talking about vibrators. We're gonna be talking about how to actually have a sex life when you're a parent. We're gonna be talking about sex, realistic expectations around sex. We're going to be talking about the new products that I like to use, we're having sex, all the things, talking about purity culture, talking about being a girl, just all the fun stuff. So those episodes are going to come in the following weeks. But today, I just want to catch you guys up because it's been July since we've talked, and that's a really long time. And so what has happened since July is first I moved. So I lived in Colorado and now I'm here in the Durham, Raleigh area in North Carolina, and we love it. I love living here. The reason that we moved was because we obviously had a baby. He is now a year old, actually 13 months, which is really annoying to say the month, but it really does matter. So we have a 1-year-old, and I basically got pregnant, and then it was like, I'm never leaving Colorado. I love Colorado. I don't even care. We're going to raise our baby here. And then the child got here, and I was like, okay, not being around family, real hard. But I didn't want to move back to where I used to live, and so we chose a city. We were just like, hey, we love North Carolina. I grew up here in North Carolina. It's a great distance from our families, from both of our families, and we just decided this is the place that we want to be. This is a great place to raise our family, and we're so close to the mountains, so close to the beach, and it's just the perfect place. And we knew some people here, which is cool, just one couple, so we at least had one little connection. But yeah, so we picked this place, and it was awesome. And our best friends, who you guys know, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've heard Caroline be on the podcast. Her and her husband Corbin and their baby also moved to Durham. So we just all left Colorado and came to Durham, which is really cool. And so we're in the Durham, Raleigh area, and we love it. We just needed to be closer to family. So Thomas is working at a church here in town, which I'm really excited about. They have been so kind to us, so welcoming. It has truly been the best place for us to be. And I'm really, really grateful for that. So we're at church now, and which is really nice. I haven't really been to church very much since I broke my leg, which we will talk about. I really, can't, there's no way for me to not make my broken leg my whole personality, but we're working on it. So that was big thing was that we moved. And then we moved, and pretty much the week that we moved in July, my sweet son Tate decided to not sleep. And he didn't sleep from July until my accident in November. And when I say he didn't sleep, I really wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. He woke up pretty much every hour, if not every hour and a half, every single night for months straight. And I did not realize how much sleep deprivation was such a real thing. Now, here's the thing. You guys are listening to me and you're probably like, okay, Hannah, like, yeah, you're tired. The way you can fix that, sleep training. Here's the thing. I don't believe in sleep training. I think that it is a biologically normal for babies to want to wake up and need to nurse, or want to wake up and want someone there to snuggle with them. Like, if you think about it, like when I wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes I'm hungry and need a snack, and I'm going to go get a snack. So if Tate wakes up in the middle of the night and wants a snack, I'm going to give it to him. I just don't think that babies, I don't think it's good or healthy for babies to lay in their bed and sob or even cry forever and think that their parent is not going to come get them. Like, that is extremely sad in my opinion. Now, I understand every parent has to do what they can, but that's just personally not my thing. I didn't know that I was going to be sharing some tea around sleep training on this episode today, but here I am. So it's not my thing, not a fan of it, don't think it's great. With that being said, though, if you did that, that's great. I'm not judging you. For my family, for my personal decision, we were not doing that. So Thomas and I did not sleep for months, and I did not realize how much sleep deprivation, truly impacted my life. I was a zombie. People would ask me after being here for 2 months, oh, what do you think about North Carolina? Do you love Durham? And I'd just be couldn't tell you anything about it because I'm not a real person. I'm a zombie. I have no thoughts, no opinions, nothing in my brain. That's part of why I didn't start recording episodes again, was because I had nothing to say, not a single thing to say. I could not think about real words. I could barely tell you what my name was. It was just a disaster. And so we did not sleep for months. I felt like Thomas and I were just at each other's throats all the time. I felt like we were just fighting. It was every little thing was a big deal. At the same time, I was dealing with some really intense postpartum rage, which people do not talk about. People do not talk about postpartum rage, but it is a very real thing. And I was not prepared to experience that. I would get really mad really fast. So with postpartum rage, and I didn't really want to talk about it for a while because I was I don't want people to think that I'm never going to do anything. And then I realized this is just a side effect of, or part of postpartum depression. So I basically would get really mad really fast, especially at my dog, my sweet dog. I would get so mad at him so fast and would just want to yell at him. And I felt like my mood was just all over the place. I started going to therapy about this because I was I'm not okay. I'm sobbing all the time, and then I'm mad all the time. But I'm not mad at Tate. I'm just mad at everything. And now that I'm actually sleeping, I'm realizing that a lot of it was due to sleep. And now I'm on Zoloft, which I needed that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But during those months of not sleeping, I was just I can't function. I don't know who I am. I don't know how I'm supposed to work. I'm mad at my husband. I'm yelling at him. I'm saying some really mean things. If you guys read some of the things that I would text Thomas, for example, Thomas or Tate would be sleeping and I would need sleeping on me, and I would need Thomas come grab him from me and go lay him down in his crib, and Thomas would be asleep somewhere and not texting me back and not answering his phone. And I would lose my mind. I would get so frustrated, and I'm just so ashamed that I said these things to him. I'm not even going to repeat what I would say, but they were really mean. And I was if he ever said those things to me, the world would come crashing down. And I am not proud of that. Me and Thomas have worked through that. Thankfully, I'm about to cry talking about it. Although I can't actually cry tears. The Zoloft does not let me cry. So Zoloft literally does not let me cry, and it's quite interesting. But we'll talk about that in a second. But I just I was just not okay. I was so mean, and I'm so ashamed that I was so mean. I can't believe the things that I would say to him and how just mean I was. And thankfully he has forgiven me and we have worked through it. But that is not who I am. I am not mean like that. I could not believe it. I was just okay, something is up with me. I'm not okay. I have got to go to the doctor. So I go to the gynecologist, and thankfully I didn't have to do any kind of pelvic exam. I just wanted to go to the gyno to also get some blood work done because I was surely my levels are off. Surely it's just a hormone issue. I'm still breastfeeding. I'm still postpartum. Like, surely it's just that. Like, that's got to be the issue. It's not anything else. Like, I just needed something to blame it on because I could not believe how, like, ragey I was all the time and how mad I was. And so I was like, it's got to be something else. Like, there's no way this is me. And so I go and I get my blood work done. I'm talking to her about what's going on. She's like, have you considered doing any kind of medication? And for literally, I had not, which sounds pretty crazy because, like, of course, medication is a thing that a lot of people suggest for this stuff, but I just, like, had not done it. I had not thought about it. And so I was just like, I'm very open to trying that. Like, we, here in this family, we're very used to medications for anxiety. Thomas had been on medicine for years for his OCD and for his anxiety. And so I was just like, yeah, sure, let's try it. I was pretty hesitant at first just because I didn't want to have any side effects because I have a lot of side effects to medications and I just didn't want to have any of the side effects. So I was hesitant at first and then I was like, you know what? What's it going to hurt? Let's try it. So I go on the medication because basically the doctor was saying that the meds that she was giving me, Zoloft, would help calm my brain. Because right now I had a lot of like up and down, up and down, up and down feelings. And I just needed my brain to like chill out. Like I just needed it to chill. I was really hoping that I wouldn't be feeling like numb and that I'd still like experience emotions, but that unfortunately has not been the case. So I am going to still stay on it. I'm jumping ahead of myself. I am going to still stay on it, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I go on Zoloft and the first like 3 weeks was awful. Awful, awful, awful. Like I could not like go throughout the day with anxiety. I had constant anxiety. I don't think I had a full-on panic attack, but at certain parts of the day, I would have super like panicky feelings. And I felt like my brain could not connect with my mouth. Like I had something I needed to say, but I couldn't get it out. Like I feel like there was a big disconnect there. And I just felt like there was a weight on my chest all the time. Like I just had such anxiety. And then like towards the end of the evening, I would have very, very panicky feelings. And I was just like, whoa, okay, this is not what I want to happen. This is not why I'm on this medicine. I understand it takes time to figure out, but like, I can't do this. Like I felt nauseous on it. I couldn't sleep because part of the reason I was going on it was because anytime I'd lay Tate down for a nap, I would feel so much anxiety about what I should do during his nap time. Like I felt like I couldn't prioritize anything, whether it was like, should I work? Should I clean the house? Should I try and sleep and take a nap? Should I work on the podcast? Like I felt like debilitated and I felt so anxious during that hour or two because I'm like, when is he going to wake up? Should I start any kind of project? Because if I start a project, he's just going to wake up. So it's not going to be good. Like it's not going to be good. So I would just feel so anxious and feel so debilitated. And then I would just spend that like hour or two just thinking about what I should do during this time. And then by the time I decide what I want to do, he woke up and then I'd have more anxiety about not getting stuff done. And so my anxiety was less about like, I know some people have postpartum anxiety of like, is he breathing? Is something wrong with him, or have really intrusive thoughts about something bad happening to their kid. And I would have a couple of intrusive thoughts like that here and there, but it really was just like so much anxiety about like what to do with my time and how to be myself. And I had a lot of social anxiety. Like I would hang out with people or make new friends since moving here. And I'd leave each interaction like, what am I doing? Like, I can't believe I said that. Or like, that was so cringy. Like I just was second guessing myself. Like I had no idea who I was. And this really did not kick in until like probably 7 or 8 months postpartum. So before that, if you've been following my Instagram, you would hear me talk about how I don't feel like I've lost myself and I feel like Tate is just integrated into our lives perfectly and it has been really smooth and that all that was true. I was not lying to you. It just hit me like a ton of bricks after we moved. And I kind of thought like once I move, like I'll just be able to like slow down because things that in Colorado had been really busy. And so I was like, maybe we'll just get to slow down and just have like a new life. We're gonna have a bigger space, which is gonna feel great because I feel so confined in our tiny apartment. And so like everything's gonna get better. And then I moved here and that just like was not the case. And so I just felt awful. And I was just like, this is not how this medicine is supposed to be. And my doctor told me like, it's going to take time to get adjusted to, but I could not go on. And so I called my doctor again and she suggested that we change when I take my dose. And so I was like, okay, we'll do that. I'll take it at night instead of during the day. And then that didn't work. And so then I called her again and I was like, I still feel awful. Like this is not okay. Like this is worse than the rage that I was feeling before. And so then she suggested, why don't we go down from 50 milligrams to 25 milligrams? And if that doesn't work, we're going to put you on Lexapro if that's what you're interested in. And I was like, sure. And so she had written the script. We had already decided I'm going to go to Lexapro. And to wean down from Lexapro, I was going to start taking just 25 milligrams. Well, during the weaning process of just taking 25 milligrams, I started to feel better. I didn't have any of the side effects anymore. I felt like I was actually a person again. I felt like my brain and my mouth connected just fine. Sometimes I still can't find the word I'm looking for, but I think that's just a postpartum brain. And I think that my brain is never going to be back to what it was, unfortunately. But I just felt better. I felt so much better. I didn't have any more anxiety. I didn't have the daily anxiety that I was feeling. And I was feeling great. I was feeling so good. I was like, this solved my problem. No more crazy mood swings. Praise God. I felt like I could just go on about my life and everything was good. And besides Tate not sleeping, because he still wasn't sleeping, but I just felt so much better. And I knew that since he wasn't sleeping and I was feeling better, that the medicine was working. And so I was like, this is fantastic. So then time goes on, a lot of other stuff happens with Theo getting sick and then him breaking my leg and my life changing from the broken leg. And fast forward to now on the medicine, I started feeling like, you know what? I can't cry. With Tate turning 1, I just expected I would have some kind of emotion about that. I would feel really, excited for his next year, but I would also feel a little bit sad that my baby's not a baby anymore. I expected to just have some kind of emotions about it, and I didn't. And I was just kind of okay, I've noticed kind of the month of December that I had never really cried about my accident, but the only time I literally ever cried even about the pain or about the grief of losing months of my life or, the surgery or the bills, I never cried about that. I'd only cried one time, and that was when I was in the ambulance going from my parents' house to the hospital. That's the only time I cried from the pain or just cried at all since my accident. And I was like, that feels really weird, because I really think that crying is such a healing emotion. It's so good for you to cry. It's good for you to get all that out. I know crying could not be fun in the moment, but afterwards I always feel better. I'm like, okay, I got that out. That's good. I experienced that deep emotion, and it's really good to experience emotions and not bottle things up so you don't explode. And I was just like, don't care. I know I broke my leg. That sucks. I'm feeling sad about it, but I don't really care. And I was like, that's interesting. And I did have a couple days with the leg break that I felt pretty depressed about it, but I felt like I could not experience deep emotion in my soul, I wanted to really experience what I was going through. And I know it sounds kind of crazy to say I wanted to feel sad, but I wanted to really experience what I was going through, because what I went through was such an extreme experience. And I'll share all of that and the details that I have not shared on, social media. I'll share all of that here about my leg, which is very interesting. But I couldn't experience those emotions. And so since then, I have been thinking about what I'm going to do with the Zoloft. My church in the beginning of January does a prayer and fasting week, where the church completely fasts food for a whole 5 days. They don't eat for 5 days and they fast. I did not do that kind of fast just because I'm breastfeeding, and I just did not feel like that would be a smart move for my supply, because also I'm planning on weaning Tate, but breastfeeding is kind of the only thing that me and him could do fully when my leg was broken, so I didn't wean him. But I decided to fast, so I fasted social media and hoping that I would gain clarity on the medication and what I should do about Zoloft. And my doctor did tell me when I went on Zoloft that she's like, some people take it for 3 months and then they feel better and then they want to get off, and then their body goes through, not a great process going off. And it really is good for you to be on it for at least 6 months. And so I basically hit that 3-month mark and was like, okay, time for me to get off. And now after that week, I kind of felt like I'm not supposed to go off of it. I didn't have peace about going off it. And I was like, okay, if I'm, fasted for this, I fasted for an answer. And I think the answer is to stay on the medicine. So I'm still going to stay on it. I really don't like this numb feeling that I'm experiencing. I don't think that that's good for me. I don't want to feel this way. I want to experience full happy, full sad. I'm really appreciative that my brain just feels pretty calm with everything. But I don't know. I just don't like it. But I feel like with everything I'm going through right now, if I add going off this medicine to that pile, I think I might explode. I don't think that would be very good for me. I'll either explode or I would never get out of bed. So I'm going to stay on the medicine and we'll see how that goes. So there's, real vulnerable stuff with postpartum rage that has been happening. That has not been fun, but there is hope because I don't have rage anymore. And I don't know if that's due to me sleeping more or to like the medicine. It's probably a combination of both. And the reason that Tate started sleeping again was because I broke my leg. How many times can I tell you guys that I broke my leg? I broke my leg. I broke my tibia, my fibula, and a little tiny piece of the top of my ankle. And when I broke my leg, obviously I went to the hospital and I spent 3 nights in the hospital. And those 3 nights, Tate was with my mom, which was not planned. We had never spent time apart like that. He still breastfeeds around the clock. And so my mom said that he slept through the night, all 3 of those nights. And I think it was due to him just being a little bit traumatized from being away from his mother. I can't spend too much time thinking about that or I get really sad. But he was well taken care of. My mom took full care of him. But he definitely went through some stuff being apart from me like that and not getting to be with me. We definitely breastfed some when he came and saw me once a day in the hospital, but it was a hot mess. So before that, I should say, because this is part of the story, is part of our crap that had been going on was that Theo, our golden retriever, got sick. And for about 2.5, 3 weeks-ish, he was basically just pooping blood constantly. And he needed to be taken outside on a walk every hour, which sounds insane. Round the clock every hour, in the middle of the night. We came downstairs one morning to diarrhea and throw up all over our floor, which is not Theo. Once he was potty trained, he never, he does not go in the house. He will let us know if something's wrong. So the fact that he had diarrhea all over our carpet downstairs, which I wanted to die when I saw that. It smelled so bad. It was awful. I was like, okay, something is wrong. And we went to urgent care so many different times. We went to the vet appointment multiple times. They finally figured out that he had a parasite and that's what was causing it. But it took a lot of vet visits, a lot of urgent care visits to figure out what was going on because they were just like, oh, he just has anxiety. And I was like, I don't know that he has anxiety for this long. This doesn't make sense to me. And it was just a really exhausting couple of weeks, truly, truly exhausting. I could not believe what was happening to us. I felt like we had no answers. It also felt silly to be like, my dog is sick and that is messing with me. But your dog is part of your family. I just consider him one of my children, he's part of my family. And it was really hard on us. It was so, so, so hard on us. And so that was happening. And so we finally are we're going to go to see our families for Thanksgiving. Thomas is going to take a week off of work. We're going to go drop Theo off with my parents and then go stay with Thomas's parents because Thomas's grandparents had not seen Tate in a long time. And so we were like, we need them to see him. We got to go. We need a break. We're doing this. So we pack up and we drive the 4 hours, and that 4 hours to my parents' house felt like an eternity. It was so long. Tate screamed half of the way there. It was just a miserable time. And so I'm like, I cannot wait to get to my parents' house. I'm like, I will hand Tate to his grandma. I'm like, here you go, Mom. Take my child. I need a break. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so tired. I'm so done. Not with Tate. He's perfect. But I just was like, I'm so done with everything. I cannot wait to get to my parents' house. So we get to my parents' house. We park in the driveway and I'm walking in with Tate and I'm like, I'm 2 steps away from the front door at my parents' house. And I'm on their little cement path, walking to their house. And Theo jumps out of the car, which we do this all the time. This is not anything outside of the realm of what we normally do. So we let him out. I kind of turn around behind me. I see him coming. And so I'm like, okay, I got to move over to the side a little bit. So I moved to the side a little bit. And I just didn't move enough over. And I guess he was just so excited that he ran straight into the back of me. He hit right behind my knee, knocked me down. Tate was on my right side. Since I was holding him, I fell towards the left side of my body. So that way he wouldn't hit the ground immediately. And we hit the ground. My dad opens the door 1 second later. He was basically at the door when I was there. So he opens the door, sees me on the ground. Tate is screaming. Tate has 2 screams that are really different that I know. So he's got his I'm scared scream, and then he's got his I'm hurt scream. And thankfully he was doing his I'm scared scream. So like I knew that he was pretty much okay. Like immediately I was like, okay, you're okay, because he just fell into like the mulch. Like I'm sure it like scared him and he fell into the mulch, and the mulch probably hurt him, but like he didn't hit his head. Like he fell into like the soft ground. Like he did not hit the cement like I did. And so I pretty much knew he was okay. So my dad had opened the door. Theo ran inside. I pick Tate up off the ground, hand him to my dad, take my leg from behind me, swing it around, and I see my bone. And I'm like, I immediately knew my leg was broken. My bone wasn't sticking out of my body. Sorry if this is too much. You can skip ahead. It wasn't sticking out of my body, but it was, I could see my bone. Nobody saw me fall, which is also like so sad. Like I had this big traumatic fall and nobody saw it. Like that sucks. I would have loved to have like a video of the fall. That would have been cool. No one saw my fall. So I give Tate to my dad. My dad immediately hands Tate to my mom, shuts Theo in, shuts the door. My mom has no idea what's going on. I'm on the ground. I am in shock. Like I am like, what is happening? Thomas runs up, sees my leg, and he is like literally about to throw up. Like he cannot function. My dad is like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Immediately comes behind me to hold me up because I'm sitting up and I'm just like, my leg is broken. My leg is broken. I just broke my leg. I cannot believe my leg is broken. And I'm literally like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, my leg is broken. I started saying a lot of cuss words. I'm just going to be so honest with you. Said a lot of cuss words. I said the F word a lot of times because I was just like, what is happening to me? I can't believe this is happening to me. I kept saying, I'm never going to walk again. I was like, am I going to walk again? I kept thinking like, am I going to walk again? I kept saying, like, am I ever going to walk again? What is happening to me? And Thomas and my dad are trying to figure out what to do. So like, should we call 911? Should we take her to the car? And like, we should go to the hospital. We don't need an ambulance. And I look at them and I'm like, I can't move. You cannot touch my body right now. Like I'm holding my leg up and I'm not moving it. At this point, I thought I had only broken one bone. I did not think I had broken three. But I was just like, you are not touching me. So we immediately call an ambulance. And also I'm immediately like, we can't afford this. We have no money, because on the way over to my parents' house, me and Thomas have this big, long, drawn out, really good conversation about money. We actually don't fight about finances for the first time in forever. I'll be so honest with you guys. Finance is an area of my life that I carry just a lot of shame about. I didn't grow up with a very, good influence on money, I would say. My parents are very different when it comes to money, and I was never really taught anything about money. And so I just carry a lot of like shame, like, oh, I didn't actually need that lip gloss, or I didn't actually I bought these bananas and I didn't eat them, and now I waste the money on the bananas. And I just carry a lot of shame about that stuff. So anytime we talk about money, I'm just like blackout. I can't do it. And I have to get over that and be an adult. And so we're having a really good conversation about money. We figure out our budget and we're like, we can do this. We figured out a plan to like really tackle our debt from moving and just like debt from Theo, because Theo went to the vet so many times. And so I was like, we have got this. We figured it out. And so of course I'm laying there like, we can't afford an ambulance. We can't afford like going to the hospital. I can't afford any of this. Like I was just freaking out. And so they call the ambulance, takes the ambulance. It felt like it took 15 hours for that ambulance to get there. Like I'm really insecure about how to say ambulance, because people always told me I say it wrong. I think it's ambulance, but I say ambulance. I'm a redneck. I don't know what to tell you. So it felt like it took forever. And after the shock started wearing off and they still weren't here, I was like, okay, I'm in pain. Like this sucks. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, I'm going to the hospital. I'm not going to be able to be with Tate. I'm in mom mode. Like my mom at this point had kind of like popped out and was like, Tate is okay. He's fine. He's running around playing. Like no worries. He's okay. And so like I was good. Like once I heard Tate was fine, like I trusted my mom and trusted that everything was okay. Like she's really good with Tate. And so I was like, I feel great about this. Well, not great. I did not have the brain space to think about anything other than the fact that my leg was falling apart. So once I heard he was okay, I was like, good. But then I was like, mom mode. So, at this point, it probably been like 4 or 5 minutes. And I was like, actually, I didn't think it was that long. I think it had been like, the time does not matter. I think it was like 2 minutes. And I was like, I looked Thomas dead in the eye because he was freaking out. Of course he was freaking out. And I was like, I need you to pull it together. I need you to call Caroline and ask her to research what formula that I need to give Tate. I need her to send that to my mom so that way she can tell my mom what formula to get for Tate because I don't have any breast milk because I didn't pack any because I didn't plan on breaking my leg. And so I was like, I need you to call Caroline so she knows what's going on and can help my mom with this. So Thomas calls Caroline and is like, hey, so Hannah broke her leg. And Caroline is like freaking out because she's like, what do you mean Hannah broke her leg? Everybody's like just in shock. And so she figures out formula for us. He gets on the phone with her. And then I look at him. I'm like, I would love it if Nicole can come to the hospital because I was going to the hospital in Augusta and Nicole is one of my best friends for probably 10 years at this point. And so I'm like, I would love it if she would come to the hospital because someone needs to take care of me. Someone needs to take care of Thomas and we just like need that help. So Thomas goes and calls Nicole and she's like, all right, we're going to the hospital. So Nicole, the ambulance gets there. They don't have any medication. Like no medication. And I looked at them and I was like, you're joking. You don't have any medication. This is your job. Who am I suing for this? Because that's how I'm going to get the money to pay for it, which is so ridiculous. I'm not actually going to sue anybody, but I was out of my mind in pain. And I was like, I cannot believe you don't have any medicine. And they're like, yeah, our supplier, I don't really know what happened. Like our supplier's been causing us problems. And I was like, well, you better figure it out. I'm not okay. So then they had to call their boss, and their boss, she finally came, gives me the drugs, and I'm like, thank God, I feel so much better. Long story short, I get to the hospital, and the check-in process was super long. Takes Nicole forever to get in the room, and at this point, I'm just like having a good time. I'm like, I am high, I feel like crap, and I'm in a lot of pain. I'm pretty high, but hey, we're here. My leg is broken. This is insane. Nicole finally gets in here. Nicole brings all the good vibes, like anywhere she goes. Like she really does like make everything better. That's just who she is. And she's funny. And I was like, great. I need some laughter here. Like I need us to like, have a good time. So I'm not going to tell every detail of the story because we would literally be here for 3 hours. But one funny story I'll tell you is they come in to do the x-rays for my leg and Thomas and Nicole are standing there and the x-ray technician is like, hey, we like shouldn't, like you talking to Thomas and Nicole, they're like, you shouldn't look at this. Like this is going to be a lot. Like you don't need to watch this happen. Like it's going to be really gross. And Thomas was like, no, I'm watching. So they're doing the x-rays, which also, oh my God, moving my leg was so painful. And I do the x-ray, and all of a sudden, Thomas at one point freaks out. He's like, what is that? So there was a little it looked like a little chip in my x-ray. And Thomas was like, she has a microchip in her leg. And he was so serious, y'all. He was like, there's a microchip in her leg. How did she get a microchip in her leg? What is happening? Where did this microchip come from? Like losing his mind. And I'm over here like, I could just hear him in the back, like freaking out. And I was like, what is going on? And he was like, there's something here. The x-ray tech's like, oh yeah, what is that? And I was like, oh, let me see what you guys are talking about. And then it was like the little metal part of my pants leg was still in the thing. But Thomas was losing his mind thinking that I had a microchip. And Nicole was like, she does not have a microchip. If she did, we probably would have gone together and both gotten microchips. Like she does not have a microchip. Like you are crazy. You need to sit down. Like he was just not okay, y'all. It was quite funny. That really kind of brought me through all of this because I was like, what is happening to me? That was just a funny little tidbit. So I stay in the hospital. I'm talking to the doctor. I'm like, so I'm breastfeeding. I would love it whenever you discharge me, like whenever I finally leave the hospital, if you could give me medicine that is safe for breastfeeding. So somehow the doctor heard that and wrote down that I refused all medication. So I didn't have medication for my broken leg for about 5 hours. And I wanted to die. Like I truly was not okay. Like I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain. And I kept asking every doctor, every nurse, like, what can you give me? And the nurse was like, I'm so sorry. Like I've tried contacting the doctor so he can, fix this problem and give you medication. Like we don't have anything to give you. And I was not okay. Like I can't explain the pain to you. I was in it was so bad. And at this point I realized I've broken all the bones. They're like, you have to get a titanium rod in your leg. And I'm just like, what is happening? And I don't have any medicine. I was just like, this is insane. Actually insane. And so I finally get medication and they gave me every narcotic under the sun and nothing touched my pain. Like no morphine, no oxy, no Percocet, no Loratab, nothing. Like the only thing that helped was Dilaudid, which I had never heard of, and that barely helped. But they kept like reaching the max of what they could give me and couldn't give me anymore. I was in so much pain. And at this point, I'm in so much pain, I haven't really processed the fact that, like, I'm about to go into a major surgery where they're going to put a rod in my leg. I'm going to have a rod in my leg for the rest of my life. That's a big deal. And everything's happening to me, and I don't feel like I have any agency over it, and that's really hard. So I was, like, freaking out about that. And then they finally take me to surgery that next morning. And I have the surgery, and then I'm in recovery, and it was a lot. Like, they told me, like, in a couple weeks, you can come back and we'll see what kind of boot we're going to put you in. But like, you can't get up off the couch. You can't move for weeks. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I can't go back to Durham. Like, I can't go back to North Carolina. I can't sit in a car for 4 hours. I'm in so much pain. It also is the leg that I have nerve damage on. And so everything hurts all the time. And I didn't have a clean break. It was super like messy. It was a spiral break, which made all of this significantly harder. And I was just like, this is the worst. This is the worst. So I ended up going back home to my parents' house, staying with my parents for 2.5, 3 weeks, I think. I stayed with my parents and just slept on their couch. And when I tell you, like, I went from the couch to the bathroom and back, I did not go anywhere else. It was awful. Like, I'm so grateful that I could stay with my parents and that they took full care of me and Tate. Thomas went back and forth from North Carolina to South Carolina because he couldn't miss, work. And so he went back and forth, which was great. But I was in so much pain and I was miserable, and none of the pain medicine that I was taking just like touched it. Like, I was in so much pain. I was miserable. I was away from my friends. I was missing so much. Like, it was awful. I had a babysitter. Like, I couldn't do anything for myself. Like, I am not joking. I could not do a single thing for myself. And so my life was pretty much like that up until like 2 weeks ago. And also at this point, I had already planned on relaunching the podcast at the beginning of the year. I was like, it's going to happen in January. Obviously that didn't happen. And then I was like, it can never come back. I don't have anything else to say to the world. And that was just because I was depressed. My leg was broken, and I was just like, not okay. And then, so we finally decided to come back to North Carolina. I'm back in my house, and I feel like I'm getting my life back together. I'm in physical therapy now. I don't have to have a babysitter anymore. When I say babysitter, I mean for myself, like for me and Tate. Like, this is the first week. Let's see, I'm recording this at the last week of January. This is the first week that I have been able to actually take care of myself with Tate. Like, I had to have a babysitter since November. I went to physical therapy today. My physical therapist told me that this kind of break, what happened to my leg, is going to take about a year until I am fully back to myself, which is so bizarre. Like, fully back to myself 1 whole year. That's crazy. So, it's going to be a year until I'm back to normal, but I feel more back to normal now. I feel like I have been given so many, like, just ideas about what to do with the podcast. Thomas and I have started having sex again, which is super exciting. I felt like also through this, since having a child, I've had a little bit of a, identity crisis. That's not the thing, because I feel very confident in my identity. I've had a little bit of imposter syndrome with this stuff of like, and insecurities of talking about sex on the internet since having my child. Like, I knew that having Tate, one day he could go like listen to all this stuff and watch all this stuff. But for something about like him actually being here in person in like real life now, I'm like, I have to watch what I say, and what's Tate gonna think about his mom talking about sex? Like, that's really crazy. But it's fine. It's fine. This is what the Lord has called me to do. He's made it very clear that this is what the Lord has called me to do. I'm really excited to get into this, to get back into this, to get into like sharing products with you guys that I love, and feeling a little bit like I've got my life together again. Like, it feels nice. It's been so good to like have thoughts again. It feels so good to like go on a date with my husband again. And it feels so good to actually have sex again. Having sex with a broken leg is not for the faint of heart, but it's fun. And you're like, why would you do that? Why would you even try to have sex? Because I'm tired of feeling like roommates with my husband, okay? And I'm going to talk about that in future episodes, like how to break out of that, because I feel like we have figured it out, thankfully. And I figured out that I think I was causing a lot of problems with that. And I am getting to a better place now. So that's where we're at. That's the update. lots has been happening, clearly. Sure that I left some stuff out, but all that being said, I'm so happy to be back with you. I'm so happy to be recording more episodes with you. Please let me know what episodes you would like to hear. Please let me know if you have any guests that you would like to come on the podcast, because I'm just super excited to be talking to people again and doing this again. I am going to be doing some kind of like seasons, which I don't have those details figured out yet, because I realized that I need to create some kind of rhythm and balance in my life. And so I think I'm going to record probably like 12 weeks on and then 2 weeks off. 12 weeks on, 2 weeks off, I think is what we're going to do. So we'll see about that. But thank you guys for being here. To keep up with all the things happening and not missing a thing, please follow at say.what podcast on Instagram. That's where our community is, and it's a lot of fun. And if you could just leave a 5-star review in the words of the toast about how beautiful, stunning, and wickedly talented I am. Don't love that. I was thinking about the toast podcast, and that just like, that didn't fit. I need to figure something else out. I'm like, I don't want to talk about how beautiful, stunning, and wickedly talented I am. That's weird. That's for the girls. Just leave a 5-star review. That would be fantastic if you think that this is 5 stars worthy. And enjoy watching on YouTube. I think this is going to be on YouTube. That's really fun. Okay, no one listens to the last 30 seconds anyway. Okay, love you. Bye. Talk soon.